You first. How would you decide? Well, I don't know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kent with Bent. I am neither Kent nor Bent. I'm Dapper, but that's Bent.
And I'm Bent.
Yeah, you're Bent. Hi, Bent.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing all right. No ping tutu. No ping tutu though today.
No, not today.
But there could be one next Tuesday because next Tuesday is also Kent with Bent because we're in that period where we have 2 in a row. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a couple things here. First of all, it is Trans Day of Visibility, which means, first of all, trans people, you have to take off your cloaks of invisibility. I know they're fun, but not today. Second, if you are a spellcaster and you have cast invisibility on any trans people, you have to end concentration on that spell right now. Dismiss it. Also, don't cast it again on them for the rest of the day. I don't care if they're the rogue and that interrupts your heist plans for stealing the crown jewels from the castle. Not today. Do it tomorrow. But yes, in fact, this is a channel that supports trans rights, and I am happy to see that we have a bunch of trans flags in the chat, so please keep that up. Although, do be careful because YouTube has a tendency to see too many emojis as spammy. Basically, try to keep it like every few chats have a few in there. Yeah, otherwise, I don't know. Sometimes YouTube is like, oh, is this spam? It's like, no, I'm asking for it. They don't care. Also, we have a fundraiser up for Roshna. Roshna Keller is actually, as far as I know, very close to having that, basically avoiding the eviction that's coming up. If you don't know, Roshna Keller has been a big part of this audience, as well as the audiences of a few other people in sort of the debunking part of YouTube. And not too long ago, she was let go from a job because they decided that they were not going to be able to accommodate her disability. And that basically just cut the legs out from under her. And so since then, she's been doing various bits of gig work with programming and coding stuff. But that is not super reliable. So, yeah, if you could help out there, that would be greatly appreciated. I think last I heard she was about 600 away from what she needed. Although I think there have been some more recent donations since then. So I'm not sure. Roshna, if you're here, feel free to let me know. But there you go. There's that. The description says Vish and Kip. Oh, did I forget to change that description? It does. Well, sorry, Kip and Vish. You're not in this one. I just fixed it. So take that, Vishanti and Kip.
Oops.
Next time, be named Bent. And we won't have to deal with this. Yeah. I would link to your channel, Bent, but I don't think you plan on putting anything new on there, so I'm not gonna.
I don't plan on putting anything on my channel. I mean, I may at some point, but there's like nothing in the near future.
Okay. All right. Well, I was gonna say, well, that's good. It's not good. It just is what it is. But it also means I'm probably not going to link there. I think the only other thing I have to say before we get into the drinking rules or reading super chats if any come in is that I have officially migrated my wish list over to Throne. So Throne is a website that is basically set up for hosting public wish lists without divulging the address of the creator. So the way basically it works is they are essentially a broker. So I put things from various websites that they are my wish list. And if you buy them from Throne, Throne actually sends them. Actually, they take the money from you. They buy the thing from the store and ship it to me. Use my shipping stuff to send it to me. And then how they get money depends on which store. Some stores, they just charge you an extra 8% and they just buy it. Some stores, they have like affiliate links so that they the store actually gets a little bit of a cut just with any other affiliate link, which is I think how they do with Amazon. So yeah, if you are someone who likes to occasionally get me things from my wish list, that is now available again. I did this once again because Amazon decided they were going to just start sharing addresses with third-party sellers, and that would make them visible to the buyer who is buying the gift, which no, I don't need that. Throne won't do that so far, so there you go. Also, I do have a crowdfunded gift on there if you want to just toss a few bucks. I put down a $50 DoorDash gift card, and so if people eventually toss $50 into that pot, I will get the $50 gift card. So that's just a thing that you can do if you want to. I have no idea if it'll work. I also don't, it's like it's not a super big deal. The wish list is just there if you want to help, basically give me a better day or, something like that. So yeah, I just want to let you know because I do know that some people do like to occasionally grab me a thing or two off of there. And yes, there is rice listed there. I don't currently super need rice, but it is technically still there. So I'm now expecting to get like, I don't know, 90 pounds worth of rice in the next few days.
Rice.
So much rice. I'm gonna be able to build an entire house out of bags of rice. I guess the roof would be hard. So just the walls are entirely made out of bags of rice. I don't know how I would do a roof out of bags of rice. I feel like that would be dangerous. Like it would just collapse and I would die. So yeah, there you go. All right. So for those of you who might be new or who might have stepped away for a little while and come back, Kent with Bent is the show where Bent and I take a look at the claims and nonsense coming from Kent Hovind. Now, we mostly focus on his older content, mostly because, well, it's just frankly better. He was more charismatic in the past. Nowadays, pretty much all of his content just goes, "Oh, you think that's real science?" And then he like pounds a bobblehead of SpongeBob with a wooden mallet and says, "We're gonna beat some real science into you," and then just says "nuh-uh" a lot, which like that's not engaging content. And very rarely does he ever actually address the points that other people are making, even when they're addressing those points directly at him. So as a result, we mostly focus on his older content. We are in what he calls his CSE, I believe 104. So he's set up this series of lecture seminar series, but like super in depth, according to him. And he also claims that these things were accepted for college credit. So yeah. Babaton says maybe an arch. I don't know what that means. Oh, an arch with the bags. Yeah, the bags of rice. The problem with the arch is that the bags of rice aren't rigid. And so I think they would shift out of the arch because of that fact, right? Because they're, yeah. It'd be like building an arch out of Jell-O. Like, how would that work? It probably wouldn't. Especially if it was heavy Jell-O. What if you made Jell-O with heavy water?
That could be tasty.
I bet it would be tasty. It would be interesting. Hey, anyone who has access to heavy water, actually, it was probably like illegal or something to do this for all I know. I don't know. Just ignore me about that. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $5 says, "Are you an ankle sprain because you're about to get rice?" Did you actually buy me rice? I have to check now. Did someone buy me rice? Goodness. Actually, I don't even know how to check. I haven't figured that out on Throne. Still says that it's available to buy, so I don't know, maybe you haven't. But thank you very much for the super chat. Jeez. All right, so let's see. Let's go through the drinking rules because this show has a bit of a drinking game that goes along with it. But before we actually get into all of that, I want to say, first of all, if you want to play along without drinking, any alcohol, if you want to play with juice or tea or coffee or soda or water or anything else like that, that is absolutely fine. Please feel free to do that. If you want to play with like a snack, like eat a piece of popcorn or like just like, I don't know, fist bump or high five the person you're watching with, if you're watching with someone else, also acceptable. The drinking game is supposed to be just a fun little exercise. It is not something you should be taken very seriously. But if you do decide to play along with a intoxicating substance, please pace yourself, know your limits. And also, when we're done, do not go out and then drive a car, operate heavy machinery, fly an aircraft, or text your ex. Those are bad ideas. Don't do them. All right. Here at the Dapper Dinosaur channel, neither I nor Bent nor the channel as a whole accept either responsibility or liability for things that you do as a result of choosing of your own free will to participate. That being said, I am drinking rum and Coke. Bent, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
Got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah. It's got caffeine in it.
Yeah. All right. So when last we left off, Kent Hovind was telling us how no one knows if black holes exist, and how would you tell if there was one because they're dark? Which, yep, we covered why that's really dumb last time. I don't want to rehash it, But just know that it is super dumb. And we, of course, will take a drink anytime anyone super chats anything to the effect that Answers in Genesis are a bag of dicks, which you might have to be clever with because of the YouTube censorship. We'll also take a drink anytime Kent Hovind says something that's so stupid we just kind of have to for brain coolant. We'll also take a drink anytime Kent Hovind tells a joke that doesn't land or tells a story that didn't happen. That one is a bit of a judgment call, but you know what? The drinks are made up and they don't actually matter, and it's all just for fun. So, like, I don't care if I get that wrong. We'll stick a drink if Kent Hovind says something that's actually factually true and isn't just a direct quote from one of his citations. It actually has to have entered his brain and, like, you know, wandered around and come back out of his mouth. Then we'll take a drink for Kent getting something right. And we do tend to get pretty generous with that as time goes on because, whoo boy, is it rare for Kent to actually get anything significant right. Let's see. We'll stick a drink if Kent Hovind cites a source. We check that source, and rather than that source just failing to support him, if it actively contradicts him, we call that a Trojan source and we take a drink. We'll also take a drink if Kent mentions that political party from the 1930s in Germany going into the 40s that was super popular there and is becoming increasingly popular here in the former United States. We will also take a drink if either Bent or I can successfully predict what Kent is going to say. We will also take a drink if Kent Hovind confuses what we can know about Australopithecus afarensis or any other larger taxon to which the specimen Lucy belongs, based on what Lucy has and not on other finds. So, for instance, if he says something like, oh, well, we don't know if Lucy could walk upright because we don't have her foot bones. Yeah, well, we have other Australopithecus foot bones, so it doesn't matter. That's called an ad hominid. We only get one of those per stream, though, because once it happens once, it just keeps on going and going and going. Let's see. We will also take a drink for every gifted membership up until a certain point, which is about 30. Once there's about 30 in the queue, I'm just going to increment the counter that much, finish my drink, and go get another one. I'm not going to count it out. Let's see, we will also take a drink if anyone sends any of the kaiju emojis, that's Mothra, Godzilla, and King Ghidorah, or if either Mothra or Godzilla come by audibly, which might happen. It's a bit random. Bent, what am I missing? Oh, Dapper's Professional. If I screw up the production of the show and it's not actually like technical difficulties or problems on YouTube's end or something like that, that's called Dapper's Professional. We take a drink for that. Now what am I missing?
Nothing. You got every rule perfectly.
Look at that. It's
Good
almost
work.
like I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Goop23 for $5 says, Mom once told me unironically, be careful with the Mountain Dew. It's got caffeine in it. And I said, there are worse drinks I could have at a college party. Yeah. That's kind of adorable, actually. Your mom just being like, all right, honey, there's a lot of caffeine in Mountain Dew. I need you to be careful. Like, oh, okay, Mom. Thanks. Then you go into like the next room and there's just free-flowing vodka. Naramda puts for $2, sends a trans pride flag, a shark, and then the word Blahai, and then a shark, and then a trans pride flag. And you know what? It's Trans Day of Visibility. I was just making invisibility jokes. Okay, hold on. Got to recalibrate. It is Trans Day of Visibility. So for today, a super chat or membership milestone chat that includes the trans pride flag gets a drink just for today. So we'll take a drink. So there we go. I swear, if I actually hear someone say, what about the cis day of visibility, I'm going to throw something. Because you know that someone's thinking it right now. There's someone with a MAGA hat thinking, when are we going to have the day of visibility for people who aren't trans? And I want to throw something at that guy. It's almost certainly going to be a guy. Yeah. All right. So Kent is coming back after a break. That's why the screen is black, because we got like a fade to black and we're going to fade back in from black. I think that means that we are just ready to go. Bent, is there anything you need to say before we hit play?
Nope, I'm ready.
All right. Well, in that case, let's go.
All right. So black holes are theoretical, probably real. Don't know. Nobody knows.
We've taken a picture since then, since this was done. So I can say we know now. But look, maybe it was more reasonable to give a like, oh, maybe there's a black hole. I don't know. Back when Kent made this in like, I think 2007 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was pretty well confirmed by then. But I don't know. I'm not an astronomer or an astrologer. You know, my brother once took an astrology class thinking it was an astronomy class.
Whoops.
Yeah, he was he wasn't very thrilled with that. He was like, I wanted to learn about like planets and distant galaxies and stuff, and I'm just learning about star signs. I was like, I was like, sorry, I don't know. No
Did
English
he
better?
drop the class?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I would have dropped it.
Fair.
How could you prove one existed?
But well, okay. I don't want to be overly critical, given that this is a very old video, and maybe that was a good question back when it was made. Okay, right? Because to be fair, we are looking at this with decades of hindsight. So, okay, there are a number of ways. One of the best ways, one of the first ways that we discovered a black hole was actually, this is how we figured out where Sagittarius A star, the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way, is. What happened was we found a spot in the sky where stars were orbiting with very high orbital periods, but they were orbiting around what was visibly nothing. So what could be a object that is massive enough to make other very large stars, in some cases, orbit around it very quickly, but not be visible? Well, a black hole is pretty much the only option that we have, like, available to us. And so there you go. Since then, black holes have been directly imaged, famously, very famously since then. So, like, that's how. So yeah, again, maybe that was a reasonable question back when this was made. So I try to be fair to Kent, something he does not return the favor for when he talks to other people. He does not try to be fair with them. But I try to be fair with them.
I think there's light getting sucked in over there. Okay? Maybe so. Maybe
That is not how a black hole works. Light doesn't just get sucked into a black hole. It bends around a black hole, and if it's fired at the right angle towards the black hole, it might end up passing the event horizon, which then technically makes the black hole grow slightly. But it's not like a vacuum cleaner that's dragging the light from everywhere. It's more like a lens.
there's a cloud coming across here. A telescope, you know. Fly.
No, Kent. It's gonna take another drink. That's very stupid. There's a difference between a cloud and what that causes and a black hole. So a cloud does not cause any change in the direction of the travel of light. So it causes no lensing effects, right? But what it does is it will absorb certain wavelengths and also emit certain wavelengths. And so what you can actually see is, depending on the type of cloud, either emission or absorption spectra in the light passing through it that indicate a cloud, whether it be of hydrogen or like dust particles or whatever. A black hole, however, does not absorb light based on wavelength, unlike a cloud. So what you see around a black hole is actually lensing. So just like you had a spherical lens that changed its index of refraction to be higher and higher as you went down towards the center of the spherical lens, that would cause light to distort, but it wouldn't change which wavelengths were coming out. That's what you see with a black hole. Gravitational lensing. You can see things like Einstein crosses or Einstein rings. So, yeah, that's what happens there.
Like a birds, maybe.
A flock of birds would be too transient for this to be a reliable astronomical observation, Kent.
Like one guy had said he saw planets around a star. See, nobody's ever proven the existence of planets around a star.
Well, they have since then, so, you know, exoplanets are a real thing now. But again, this was decades ago, so I'm not going to knock Kent for not being able to time travel. That does seem a little unfair.
Another star besides the sun, okay? And every night he took thousands of pictures, you know, and he would see the star appeared to move back and forth a little bit. And he said, "Oh, see, that's the planet going around, and it's causing the star to be, the gravity's pulling the star off course."
That is actually one of the first ways that we ever detected exoplanets. Also, Eris Rose for $1.99 says, "Don't forget to like the live, Heart and Mothra." We'll take a drink for that, Mothra. Thank you very much. So, the way this works is, it is in fact the case that all mass attracts mass, right? That's basically just Newton's law of gravity. And so if a planet is orbiting in such a way that it is, like, its plane of orbit is more or less edge on to our field of view, then you'll see the star wobble back and forth, apparently, and also go back, shift a little bit in terms of its redshift. It'll go back and forth. And if it's more or less like flat, like we're looking down on the orbit, then the star will make a tiny little circle. And you can detect this with very sensitive instruments. Now, some guy with his, backyard telescope, no, he's not going to be able to figure this out. But professional observatories can. And it turns out that the closer the planet is and the more massive it is, the easier it is to detect this kind of exoplanet with this technique, which also is why some of the first detected exoplanets are what we call hot Jupiters, which is to say very massive planets very close to their stars. So, yeah, that, again, I don't know exactly when this talk was given, so I don't know the degree to which exoplanets were known, or, you know, the degree to which stellar wobble was known as a technique. But, hey, you don't come here just for the debunking. Sometimes you come here to learn stuff. And hopefully I'm teaching you some stuff about exoplanets and how we figure out where they are.
Found out he had a wobble in his telescope base.
See, I don't believe this is a true story, so I'm going to take a drink for that. And the reason is because if it were a wobble in his telescope base, one, this wobble in the starlight would not be regular, which is what you would expect for a planet, right? Planets have a pretty invariant orbital period, at least as far as I know. Bent, are you aware of any planets with wildly varying orbital periods?
I'm not.
All right, well, there we go. And so you would expect this to be regular, and also you would expect that the period, so even if he had a regular wobble in his telescope base somehow, which I don't know how you would do that, but let's say it's true, it would also mean that every single star would wobble by the same amount in the same period along the same axis, no matter which star he pointed it at. That would immediately be a red flag to anyone looking at this data, because there's no reason to expect every single star to have a planet with the exact same orbital period and oriented the same way towards an observer on Earth. That would be fantastically unlikely. Which is why I don't think that this is true, right? Because in order to come to the conclusion that that's what you're seeing, you would have to go through a lot of data. And in doing so, if it were a wobble in your telescope, that would become very obvious very quickly. So, Fear Amen is English Monger says, Dapper, we didn't know that other stars had planets in the early 2000s. That's the thing. I don't remember when the first exoplanets were discovered. So if anyone wants to look that up for me and find out, then please do. But like, I don't follow astronomy closely enough that I have dates like that, like locked in my brain. All right, Ben, do you know?
Honestly, I think it was pretty close to the time this video was released that we had found exoplanets, if I can remember correctly, but I would have to look it up to know for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, if anyone does want to look it up, please just at me. Oh, there's one thing I did forget. If we can get this to the little fundraising bar there to 100%, not only do I put in a vote for a fancy avatar for my next video that I produce, but also Bent will wear a tutu. And if we get it to 50%, I'm going to give away a Steam key to whoever's fastest. You don't have to super chat or be a member or a patron or anything like that. It's just you have to be fast. But at 50%, I will give away a Steam key for Warhammer The End Times Vermintide, which is a 4-player class-based horde shooter. So think like Left 4 Dead, but set in the Warhammer Fantasy Old World, where there are classes where one is a dwarf, one is a wood elf, one is a witch hunter, one is a well-armored foot soldier for the Empire, and then one is a pyromancer. And honestly, the pyromancer is one of my favorites. Because sometimes if you use too much magic, she just blows up and deals a whole bunch of AoE, but then also goes down, loses all of her health right there. And sometimes you're like, you know what? We're close to dying. It might actually be worth it to just explode and kill all the enemies and then have someone revive me. And yeah. Also, she's very sassy. So she's one of my favorites, is the pyromancer. I don't know. Sapphire, a zombie Goliath light for $2 says, I'm in the neutral zone, but my cloak failed. Oh no, now you're visible. And then there's a trans pride flag, and we will take a drink. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. I think also that Sapphire Light just outed herself as a Romulan. I think we now know who the Romulan spy is. It's Sapphire Light. Uh-oh. Quick, no one tells Sapphire Light anything classified. Renee Reborn over and over and over, who's been a member for 28 months and is at the amniote level, says, the first confirmed exoplanet was found in 1992, orbiting a pulsar? Okay, well, Kent has no excuse.
Wow.
So, Kent, you're a dummy. And also, there was a trans pride flag, so let's take a drink for that. Thank you very much. All right. You know, I was going to say, I feel like I haven't encountered any invisible trans people, but then I just realized, how would I know if I had?
You could hear them, right?
But what if they're just quiet?
That's a good point.
You almost never hear me, and I'm not invisible or anything, and I walk around
You're
all the
very
time.
quiet.
You say that, but I mean, I don't know. But if I were also
It's true.
invisible, you might just not notice me.
I've heard people walk around me before, and you're amongst the quietest.
I don't try to be. It's just how I walk.
So, yeah.
And which is weird, because like I'm a 1-ton dinosaur.
It's like a Batman walk.
Maybe I missed my real calling as Batman. Okay, we're gonna crowdfund a bat cave, but it has to have the Tyrannosaurus in it. So I don't know, I think the
That's-
initial crowdfunding goal is gonna be like a few $1 million.
I'll donate.
Okay, a few $1 million?
No, I don't
Oh.
have that much money.
Just 1 million?
I don't have that much money either.
Okay, fine.
Oops. There might be planets around other stars. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. Okay. But nobody's ever proven they exist.
Well, apparently, they had something like a decade before this video, Kent. So, yeah, and again, thanks to Renee Reborn for confirming that for us.
As far as I'm concerned. Okay. In February of 1999, Houston Chronicle ran an article, page 10A, about a Danish physicist named Dr. Howe, working at Harvard, was able to slow light down by cooling it.
That doesn't make sense. Light doesn't have like a temperature other than saying where does this have like its peak, like where is the peak wavelength in like the black body spectrum? You can call that a temperature, but cooling light down just means increasing its wavelength and reducing its frequency, which are the same thing in light. Dallas Morning News 28/2000. Is this something we can actually find?
Yeah, maybe.
Dallas Morning News. Light slowed down, and that was February, or February as we like to spell it because it's stupid English. February 28, 2000. Let's see what we got here. Safety of flight from Federal Aviation Administration, Wikipedia, Great Succession, Richard Tuttle, new watercolors, My Dallas Rain, Chick-fil-A quality has really gone downhill on Reddit. Okay, I have no idea how that came up. Let's see. Growth rate slowed in U.S. metro areas in 2025. Nope. I don't think it's going to come up. So let's see. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $5 says, "Come on, this isn't where you go on the internet for classified information. We aren't a War Thunder forum." It's true. It's true. I was actually thinking, like, you know what would actually be a pretty good tactic for like releasing classified information is if a government like paid War Thunder to add in enemy vehicles with wildly inaccurate stats just to induce players who happen to be from that country to give away classified information on the forums. Because, you know, that's what happens, right? Like, people who have operated these vehicles that are in War Thunder are like, well, this is inaccurate. And people are like, how do you know? And it's like, here's the technical manual that's top secret for it. See? So like, oh, hey, Ukraine, what you should do is you should pay War Thunder to add more Russian military vehicles in, as many as possible. And then, you know, it'll get leaked. All right. So I have no idea. See also New Scientist, July 24th, 1999. See New Science, June, for more on gravity affecting light, slowed to 39 miles an hour. I can't, look, I can't find the first one. And I don't know what it means to cool down light in this context. So I'm calling bullshit. And like, yeah, his primary citation just doesn't seem to be available. And I doubt any of the other ones are either.
It to 50 billionths of a degree above absolute zero.
That doesn't mean anything. That's not a thing. You can't cool a photon. Photons don't. Okay. What is temperature? Did you remember the temperature definition?
It is the average random molecular kinetic energy of a substance.
Yes, it is. Well, it's a measurement of that. You forgot that bit, but yes, it is.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so is a photon a molecule or an atom that could have a
No,
temperature?
it's a boson.
Yeah.
It's
So
not a fermion, it's a boson. I don't think it can have a temperature. I could be wrong.
the closest thing you can get is, like I said, if you look at like the black body spectrum, and you can see what light would be emitted as the peak of that spectrum at a particular temperature, and you can call that the light temperature, which like various art programs will do. So for instance, I can say, okay, hey Blender, I want to have a 4750 Kelvin light, which is actually one of my go-to lights because it's a nice like off-white warmish color. It's very comforting. It's similar to where a lot of incandescent light bulbs are. So like, yeah, 4750 is a pretty common black body temperature for me. But that's just taking into account the entire black body spectrum and then me telling Blender how bright to make it. And you could say that whatever that peak number is there, which is going to be sort of an orangey color, that's light of that temperature. I mean, yeah, sure, you could say that, but like, it's not actually true that the photons are of that temperature. Rando from chat for 100 Argentinian pesos says, I thought classified info was spread through Telegram. No, you're thinking of Signal. It was spread through Signal. Yeah. Because, yeah, why wouldn't, the Secretary of Defense just include various reporters in his classified Signal chat, which, by the way, is illegal. Classified communications have to go out on specific, well-secured, government-run and operated communication channels, and there are options for that. And apparently, right after Hillary Clinton lost the 2016 election, all the Republicans stopped caring about OPSEC. Isn't that weird?
Very weird.
Yeah, it's almost like when Ted Cruz, became a candidate, and then all the Republicans stopped caring about where their candidates were born. Remember that? That was weird.
I remember.
It feels like they have like, I don't know, like selective concern. It's almost like all they have are double standards. It's weird. All right. Well, I'm going to hit play.
Can I really measure that exactly?
I don't know. Pretty chilly. Don't lick it.
Isn't that temperature out in the universe, I mean out in space?
Out in space is real close to that. It's about 3 degrees above that is what they think, negative 456.
Kent is actually right about that. Outer space, like what you would cool to as an ambient temperature is basically the temperature of the cosmic microwave background radiation in terms of black body spectrum, again, because that's how radiative cooling works, which means you would cool down to about 2.5 and when he gave this 3 or 4 degrees was perfectly reasonable as an estimate. And that's Kelvin, which means not degrees, so 2.5-ish Kelvin. And saying, 3 or 4 is reasonable. So I'm going to take a drink for Kent getting that right. I'm impressed. Yeah. Huh. Good job, Kent.
This is Fahrenheit. If you do it in Kelvin, it'd be 0.
And then you had to go and screw it up, Kent. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna take a drink for. You just got it right, Kent. You just said it would be a few degrees warmer than about a half a degree above absolute 0, and then you said it would be 0 Kelvin. And why would you do this to me, Kent? I just drank for you getting it right.
If you do it in centigrade, it's negative 273. But they slowed light down. When they got it that cold, light slowed down to 38 miles an hour.
Okay, so why is it that light can't fundamentally slow down in terms of its point-to-point travel time? Okay, so light always travels at sea. Now, you might say, oh, dapper, it travels more slowly in water. Now, on average, the wavefront can travel slower, but that's because the actual individual photons are having interactions which are slowing down their travel time from one long distance across, right? But their travel time between those interactions, that's governed by c, right? So what's actually happening is interactions are causing the path of the light to become somewhat random, and therefore the travel time is going down. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, the reason that it's c is because light has no rest mass. All particles with a 0 rest mass always travel at c, always. They can't travel at any other speed. That is just a fundamental law of the universe. So in order to slow down light in some way other than just causing it to undergo more and more interactions, The only thing you could do would be just change one of the fundamental constants of the universe. One that, by the way, governs a lot of other interactions, including electromagnetic forces and nuclear forces and all sorts of crap like that. C comes up all over the place in physics. So no, you cannot slow down the speed of light, like actual C, in some area by making that area cold. That's not a thing you can do. Now, there's all sorts of things you could do to slow down, like I said, that average speed of like the wavefront traveling through a medium. Sure. And you know what? Maybe it can go down to 1 mile an hour. I don't know. And maybe that involves cooling down some substance. But what it doesn't do is change C. It also certainly doesn't change what light does in a vacuum, because the wavefront in a vacuum isn't going to have any interactions, which means it's always going to travel at C. Now, sure, there could be dust clouds in the way, but that's not going to significantly lower it because the vast majority of that travel path is just going to be a straight line. So this doesn't matter at all to anything like distant starlight problems, nor does it change the value of C, the physical constant.
Then in February, a couple of months later, February 2000, a year later, they slowed it down to 1 mile an hour. Then in January of 2001, they stopped it. NewYorkTimes.com had an article, researchers say they have slowed light down to a dead stop.
What's it look like when it's not?
I don't know. They stored it and then released it as if it were an ordinary material particle.
Also, one thing that I like about this is he's talking about ways to slow down light, but he needs the speed of light to be faster, not slower. So even if he's right that this changed C, it would be in the exact opposite direction that he needs it to, because it would indicate that if anything, our estimate for the age of the universe is a minimum. Not that we went too high, but that if anything, it might be too low. And he wants the universe to only be 6,000 years old, not older than the 13.8 billion years or so that we think it is.
The achievement is a landmark feat that by reining in nature's swiftest and most ethereal form of energy for the first time could help realize what are now theoretical concepts for vastly increasing the speed of computers. Right.
I am struggling to figure out how that would be the case, but sure, whatever, I don't care.
Right now, the speed of computers, of course, is dependent on the speed of light.
Yeah, so if we slow it down, that'll speed up the computers. I'm just going to take a drink.
Why is he thinking this way?
I don't know. It makes no sense. It's like, hey, you know what would make Phelps swim a lot faster is if we made him swim in a giant pool of peanut butter. Like, no, that wouldn't help at all. Also, it would be sticky and gross. He'd probably get such horrible acne. Tasty, maybe. I don't know. I feel like there's no way that you could fill an entire Olympic-sized swimming pool with peanut butter and have it stay sanitary.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to eat that peanut butter, especially after someone swam in it. It's definitely not going to be sanitary after that. That's a violation of all sorts of health codes. Which, by the way, that's why you don't eat the packaging peanuts, even though they're puffed corn, because they are made in non-sanitary conditions. They are not food grade. I know that they're not supposed to be toxic, but like, there could be diseases in there. There could be heavy metals. There could be various toxins. Just don't eat those. Don't do it.
If the electricity can only go through there at 186,000 miles a second, what if it went through instantly?
And you're going to do that by slowing down the speed of light. You're going to increase the speed of electricity by lowering the speed of light, Kent. How? Please explain how. I'm just going to take another drink for like, yeah, what if we slow down the speed of light so that we could make electricity flow faster? Okay.
Gigahertz would be a snail, right? Another thing to consider, people say, boy, if I could travel at the speed of light, I'd go visit all the stars. Yeah, right, you'd be an old man by the time you got to the first one.
Oh, Kent doesn't understand relativity. Oh, man, because if you could travel at the speed of light, then your clock speed would reach 0, which means you wouldn't age at all. Take a drink for Kent not understanding the most basic form of relativity. Hooray, Kent. Rando from chat for 100 Argentinian pesos says, I drove my Pagani Huayra. Oh, it's Huayra. Okay, Pagani Huayra at 30 kilometers per hour. So I've changed the speed of hypercars. Thank you for the IPA in there for Wyra, because yeah, I was not going to get that right, so I appreciate it. And also for making it something that I'm pretty sure I can say correctly, because every once in a while someone sends in something with IPA and I'm like, okay, I know what it's supposed to be pronounced as, but I'm not sure I can get my mouth to do that reliably. Because, you know, there are certain sounds I'm not used to making. Mostly vowels. Because even though English has way too many vowels, there are way too many more vowels that exist out in the world.
Right? What if you could travel at the speed of thought?
I don't know, that's not a real thing, Kent. That's just a made-up thing. It's like, oh, what if you could imagine
you
being
travel
someplace?
at the speed of love.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Or what if you could travel at the speed of disgust?
I feel like I already travel that fast.
Sounds unfortunate.
It is.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you forgive me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
All you have to do is think about being there. Of course, for some people, that'd be even slower.
That joke landed. I hate that. Whatever.
Right. So I had some students, they'd die if they did that. See, when we pray to God, how long does it take our prayers to get to heaven?
Kent, if God is both omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent, then it doesn't make sense for there to be a travel time because the prayer isn't going anywhere. That's kind of the point of the omnis. Is there's no travel time because God is already right there inside your brain. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $2 says, Kent has never experienced the speed of love. Oof. Certainly not from his end. I don't think he's capable of actually loving another human being. I think he's too narcissistic for that. So yeah, I don't know, Kent. But also, we're not talking about God. We're talking about stars. This whole thing is supposed to be about things like the distant starlight problem for young Earth creationism, which to sum it up is basically, hey, if the universe is only 6,000 years old, then how come we can see things that are from farther away than 6,000 light years? That light shouldn't have had time to reach the Earth yet. So yeah, that does seem like a problem. And Kent here is talking about, well, what if we could slow the speed of light? I'm like, I don't know. That seems like it would just make the problem worse. And then he's like, well, how fast can God know things? I'm like, I don't think that's relevant, regardless of whether or not there's a God.
Apparently faster than the speed of light.
No, because the travel time would be zero, Kent, unless you're just denying the omnipresence of God. Is Kent denying the omnipresence of God?
It's possible he is without realizing it.
Okay, I'm just going to take a drink for Kent just contradicting, like, some of the most basic Christian theology. Like, sure, Kent, I guess. You want to deny the atonement next, Kent? Because you can. I'm not going to stop you. I mean, we do have Easter coming up. It would be an interesting thing to get Kent to on my show denying the atonement on Holy Week. I don't know. Okay, I know Catholics have a Holy Week. Ben, did your group of Protestants do any kind of Holy Week stuff? Like, was there
we didn't.
no Good Friday stuff?
We had no, nothing on Good Friday. We had Easter service, obviously.
Okay.
I think we had like an Easter feast after the service. Occasionally, maybe not every year, but I don't think we had any Good Friday services.
It's nothing like
I didn't go to them.
Nothing like the entrance to Jerusalem, or like.
I mean, I think we maybe put on a play once or twice to
Okay.
depict that.
See, because there's a lot of Christian groups out there that I don't have any first or second, or in some cases even third-hand knowledge of. So, like, I don't know what they all do. I do know that Holy Week is important for a lot of different groups of Christians. I would say most Christians, because I know it's important for the Catholics and the Anglicans and the Eastern Orthodox and the Oriental Orthodox. And I'm pretty sure that if you combine those groups, you get a majority of Christians.
I would think so.
Okay. Oh, and also the Church of the East, the quote unquote Nestorians. I'm pretty sure it's important for them too, although I'm less confident. I would be shocked if it weren't, but I don't have as much information on those groups, so I don't know.
and when God answers our prayers, or when angels go back and forth, or in the book of Daniel when the angel was coming down to answer Daniel's prayer. He said, as soon as you started praying, God sent me. Which leaves us, in our way of thinking, everything is three-dimensional. So heaven is out there someplace.
Kent is obviously not a Blender user, which in fact has 6 dimensions at a minimum. And I frequently use all 6 of them.
You would.
Actually, I suppose if you count the timeline as a dimension, which it is technically, it has 7 dimensions, with one of them being a time dimension. So I don't know. Does that count as a 7D program? Is Blender a 3D actually a 7-dimensional program?
I mean, if it is how you describe it, then I would think so.
Okay, because Blender has the timeline. It also has a W and a U and a V axis, in addition to the X, Y, and Z axis. So, and I often use all 7 of them, I suppose. Actually, I'm currently rendering some frames on Sheepit, which, by the way, if you want to help out, Sheepit is a good way to do that, especially right now. And that animation uses all 7 dimensions. So, yeah. It didn't always. It used to only use 6 of them, but it currently uses 7. Okay, here we go.
Okay? What if heaven is in a different dimension and it's right next to us, a half a second in the future?
What would that? What does that mean? What does it mean for something to be a half a second in the future as a dimension? Because a dimension is a degree of freedom, right? Like, why do we say we have 3 dimensions? Because you can give something position along 3 axes or 3 what do you call it? Coordinates, right? You can have a coordinate with 3 different numbers, and that can define any position within space. So if you try to go lower, you can actually go lower. You can do things like space filling curves and stuff, right? And then you can give a 1 dimensional location that defines a point in 3D space. But in order to do that, you have to use 3D coordinates to describe the manner in which the line fills the space. So it doesn't matter that you can reduce it down to a smaller number of coordinates, because you have to start out with a coordinate system that, while it has fewer numbers to define position, has those 3 numbers to define its shape. So it still doesn't matter. So there's 3 dimensions of space. A 4th spatial dimension would just be a different direction in which you could move. It wouldn't be a new realm. In fact, if you want to experience what this is kind of like, there are a number of video games and entertainment programs that are actually use 4 spatial dimensions. If you want to play 4D golf, you can. And in fact, I believe it actually has up to 6D courses if you want to play 6-dimensional golf. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you could. It's a game that's available right now on Steam. You can just go play it. And so if heaven is another dimension, that would mean that heaven is a different direction that you can move in? And it would have to be contiguous with all places, just like all dimensions are. So I don't know what it means for a dimension to be forward in time. Like, would that, hypothetically, what would it mean if up was a second ahead of in time? Like, what would that even, it doesn't mean anything. That's an incomprehensible statement. Rando from chat for 100 Argentinian pesos says, he didn't ask how long prayers took to get to God, but how long it took to get to heaven. Heaven is the same as the planet Kolob, which is near Sagittarius A, 27,000 light years away. So what's the speed of prayers? That is such a cursed super chat, and I love it. Thank you. Narondoputz for $2 says, Hovind is spectacularly dumb today. Oh yeah. No, he's worse than... No, I can't say he's worse than normal. I've been saying that too much, and I don't think it's actually true. I just think I feel like it's true at the time because of recency bias. I think that's all that's happening. But yes, he is very, 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 very dumb. And I need to try to stop just relying on recency bias to pretend that he's being especially dumb. Because this actually is probably just normal Kent. And I forget every, few weeks just how dumb he can get. Because it is, frankly, incalculable. Lieutenant Matt's Navigator for $5 says, Kent's head is in another dimension that's just about 2 feet lower in the sagittal plane. I think that's pretty far up his ass if that's what you're going for, which I'm pretty sure it is. Actually, that would be up, probably into his stomach. All right.
always a half a second.
or you know, a millionth of a second or something, you know. What if there are other dimensions we have no concept of? Don't have a clue.
If I get a time machine, I can just go a thousandth of a second faster.
And be there, yeah. Could be. Anyway, these are things your brain, you know, thinks on for a while and gives up because you just, human brain won't wrap around that.
Actually, extra spatial dimensions are like really trippy and weird when you first encounter the idea. But if you spend any significant amount of time like in situations that actually deal with additional spatial dimensions, they're not that confusing. It's not easy to get a mental image, but like mathematically, they're trivially easy. Right? Like you can generalize vector mathematics to add in an extra axis, and the math just works out exactly the same, except instead of doing math with 3 sets of numbers, you're doing with 4 or 5 or 6. Right? Like you can figure out the length of a vector in 6D space with very little extra effort beyond 3D space. It's basically twice as hard, or takes twice as many steps, which isn't that many actually, because figuring out the length of a vector in 3D space is only using 3 numbers. Like it's not that hard. Extra dimensions are pretty easy mathematically, and even small numbers of extra spatial dimensions, you can kind of figure out what's going on. Like, for a while, I used to have fun in part by solving 4D mazes. Just, you know, wander through a 4D maze. In fact, in some cases, the same game that I had, you could also do 3D mazes. I was better at the 4D mazes because you can see further into 4D, because you can see around corners in 4D. So, you know.
It's useful.
Yeah. Turns out I was better at the 4D mazes. The 3D mazes would take me forever. 4D mazes, real fast. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, if you want to get good at 4D, like intuiting how 4D space works, get a 4D game. They're available. Get 4D Miner. It's like Minecraft, but 4D. Also, you have to really work on building a hut that actually is like airtight in 4 dimensions. Because you can build a little box and then hide inside of it, and the enemies will still get to you by going through an extra dimension where you don't have blocks placed. So, like, yeah. Anani Numbers, who's been a member for 36 months and is at the ambient level, says, "Are you saying Kent emits a shepherd tone of dumbness?" That's a really good analogy. It really is like a shepherd tone of dumbness. It feels like it keeps going up, but it's actually just cycling. Oh, that's really good. Oh, look. Thanks for running out of memory, YouTube. I appreciate it. It's always fun. Thanks. Let's see. Oh, no, I have to switch from top chat back to live chat. That's fun. But that also was followed by a Ghidorah, a trans pride flag, and a Godzilla. So we will take a drink. Thank you very much. Okay. Then Rando from chat for 100 Argentinian pesos says, "Can prayers make knots in more than 4 dimensions if you think of them as sheets?" I have no idea. I don't actually even know if like what knot theory says about 4D or n-dimensional spaces, because I don't know enough about knot theory in 3D space. So it's one of those areas of math that I've never bothered to look into. I don't really have an application for it in my life, so I just don't. Whereas like 4 spatial dimensions, that comes up a surprising amount in my life, actually.
2 independent teams of physicists have achieved the result. One led by the same Dr. Howe of Harvard and Roland Institute for Science in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The other by Dr. Ronald Walsworth and a couple other guys whose names I cannot pronounce. Anyway.
Like Mikhail D. Lukin? That's not that hard of a name, but sure, whatever, Kent.
That Smithsonian and Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics in Cambridge. So these guys were slowing light down by cooling it.
That cannot be an accurate description of what was going on. Maybe they were cooling a substance and shining the light through it. That could be.
And got down to actually stopping light altogether. In June of 2000, the Sunday Times in United Kingdom announced, "Scientists claim they have broken the ultimate speed barrier, the speed of light." In research carried out in the United States, particle physicists have shown that light pulses can be accelerated up to 300.
Oh, I remember this. Do you remember this?
I do not, and it seems nonsensical.
Yeah, it turns out that this was actually an error with the clocks that they were using to time the speed. They'd incorrectly accounted for the effects of relativity when they separated the clocks after they calibrated them.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there was a report of like, oh, hey, we send a signal faster than light. We think maybe it's like quantum tunneling or something. And it turns out No, you just incorrectly reported the time on the clocks. But for a while, it was a big deal. I do remember this. Yeah. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $2 says, is he going Flurf Cold Moonlight? I don't think so. Although I do love that Flurfs, who seem to be all about the second law of thermodynamics, it seems to be their favorite thing ever, then go, yeah, but Moonlight cools things. It's like, dude, you clearly don't know anything about the second law of thermodynamics, do you? You just have no idea. Like, you just use that as a buzzword or a catchphrase or whatever. Like, okay, cool. Oh, man. Like, I know that later work has showed that the Dunning-Kruger effect isn't super a real thing, but my goodness, do Flurfs seem to make a counter case just by existing.
100 times their normal velocity. Dr. Li Jun Wang of University Research Institute in Princeton transmitted a pulse of light toward a chamber filled with specially treated cesium gas, and the light went through faster than light, 300 times faster. So the obvious question comes up, is the speed of light a constant?
Yes. C is a constant. The speed of a particular wavefront of light can be lower than c, but the speed of light in its straight line trajectory of a single photon from point to point is always c.
All of the arguments about the universe being billions of years old because the stars are so far away, all of those arguments are based on the assumption the speed of light is a constant.
That's actually one of the most well-supported facts in all of science. It is so well-supported that we've stopped trying to measure the speed of light, and we have just set it at a particular value, a certain number of meters per second, and now what you can do is measure the length of the meter. Experiments that used to measure the speed of light now measure the length of the meter. Like, it used to be that based on wavelength and how, your microwave variably heated things in certain spots, that you could use that to get an approximate measurement of the speed of light. There was a bunch of, math stuff that you had to do to work that out, including knowing the wavelength of the waves in your microwave. But now what you're actually doing is measuring the length of the meter. That's how fundamental the speed of light is. It's so fundamental that we gave up trying to figure out what it actually is according to some other units. And we just started defining SI units based on it. The length of the meter is no longer defined as a fraction of the distance between the North and South poles, assuming a perfectly spherical Earth. Or no, a perfectly smooth Earth. I think it still counts for the equatorial bulge. Whatever, doesn't matter. We don't define it that way anymore. And I don't see anyone complaining about their meter sticks being wildly inaccurate. So, I don't know.
Daniel, you asked the question before the break, or just during the break. What was it about the starlight? Oh, are all the stars within a 6,000 light year radius, I guess? No. No question. There's so many stars. There's trillions of stars and trillions of galaxies. They're a long ways away.
Then the universe is old. That's it. That's all it takes. If that's true, then the universe is old. Sorry. I mean, I'm not actually sorry. That's everyone has known this for a very long time. But yeah, that's just it. Unless you want to say God's a liar and he just made fake starlight from stars that in many cases don't even exist anymore, traveling towards Earth for some reason, presumably to fool us into thinking the universe is old. And he even included things like redshifts and dimmed Cepheid variables and type 1a supernovae and things like that. If God carefully orchestrated the universe to look as if it's 13.8 billion years old, and then we come to that conclusion, whose fault is that? It's God's fault.
Much farther than 6,000 light years, for sure.
All right, well, we just hit the 1 hour mark, so we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to refresh my drink. You guys should go grab yourselves snacks or new drinks or whatever, and we will be back in just a little bit after some musical stylings from some guy. Some guy none of us like. We all just like this guy.
Hey.
Oh, wait, no, it's you. Oh, my goodness. It's Ben Hovind.
Hey,
No
wait
relation.
a minute.
All right. We'll be back in just a little bit, everybody. we are back. Thank you for sticking with me, those of you who did, which looks like pretty much everyone, so thank you very much. The first thing I want to say now that I'm back is that, as you guys probably know, this channel is almost entirely dependent on the direct support from my viewers, whether it be through super chats, memberships, the Patreon, super stickers, super thanks, gifted memberships, any of that stuff. So if you like what I do here and you want to be able to contribute to that, the best ways are probably first the Patreon. That's where I get to keep the most of what people send me. The cut's about 90%, which is pretty good. Also, you can get a 15% discount there, and it starts at only $1 a month. So that is probably the best place to go. Oh, and also Lieutenant Math the Navigator just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. I will take those drinks after I'm done with this quick little spiel, which means, Bent, I need you to be prepared to talk about your favorite aspect of Klingon grammar while I take those 5 drinks.
Okay.
So start thinking, right?
Okay.
Okay. And it better be a real aspect of Klingon grammar.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. So probably next best is the memberships. Those start at $1.99. That is a join button right below this. The Patreon, by the way, is linked in the description. Both of those give you access to my Discord server where we do things like go watch Star Trek, which we're going to do right after this. There's also lots of pet pictures in general. We just have a lot of fun there. So yeah, come check that out if you want to. There's also a wish list, like I talked about at the beginning. It's from Throne. Bent, I believe, has just removed his wish list. So if you want to give him anything, you can't. He won't let you. So there we go. There's also Sheepit. Sheepit is actually, I'm running right now. I am getting frames in for my next video. Sheepit is my render farm. If you want to help me get videos rendered faster, or at least keep me at the rate where I'm getting them now, there's a section in the description called How to Render for Me. Follow those directions. You download the client for your operating system. You open that client, and then you put in the login information that's in my description, and it will start using your GPU or CPU cycles to render for me. Even if I don't have frames up, what it will do is it will give me points on the render farm, and those points will go on to tell the render farm how high priority my frames should be in the future. So no matter what, whether I have frames up or not, it still helps, and it helps the most when I do have frames up, which includes right now. Right now there are 36,000 frames up for rendering. I produce more rendered frames of computer-generated image per unit time than most Hollywood studios ever will. I do it a lot, and I could not do it without help. So I want to say thank you to everyone who helps it with that. The last thing I have is, this is something that does not cost you any money, but I think I would really appreciate it if you do this. Now, generally speaking, I don't like it when people dogpile people, especially people who are just kind of broadly being jerks or something, like whatever. Don't do that. I do make a few exceptions. And one is what I'm going to ask you to do right now, which is I want you to go find your favorite FTFE, Fight the Flat Earth, Craig McNeil video. And I want you to go leave a comment on it telling Craig how much you appreciate the work he does and what you liked about that video or his channel in general. The reason for that is Craig's been having a bit of a rough time lately, and I don't want to go into too many details. That's for him to do. But yeah. And he reached out today to express some of his frustration about that and how he's feeling pretty down. And so what I would ask you to do is go tell him how much his content has meant to you if you've ever enjoyed his content. So go give him a nice dog pile. The kind anyone would. This is like a puppy pile, right? Because everyone would be okay with being in a pile of puppies, right? Because they're cute and adorable. Go do that. Call it a puppy pile. All right. So now I'm going to take 5 drinks for the Lieutenant Math the Navigator, who has sent 5 Dapper Dinosaur gift memberships. So Bent, are you prepared to talk about your favorite aspect of Klingon grammar?
Yeah, I'm ready as I'll ever be.
All right. Well, I'll take 5 drinks. Go.
All right. So you have the punctuation and the consonants and the vowels. What I really like is the capitalization. I forget which letters because it's been a long time since I've studied Klingon, but some letters
Okay.
are always lowercase.
Okay. That's not even
and
grammar.
some are always capitalized.
That's just orthography. That's not even grammar.
Well, that's what I gave you.
You have failed spectacularly.
I think I did a good job.
I disagree. This is
Even if I
horrible.
misunderstood the assignment.
All right. Let's see what else Kent has for us.
But that doesn't mean the universe is more than 6,000 years old.
It actually does, Kent. Also, Zerolon sent me a link to the source about slowing down light to 36 miles an hour. They didn't cool down the light. They cooled down some cesium atoms that they shone the light through. Exactly like I said, it wasn't cooling down the light. It was cooling down a medium through which they shone the light. So I'm just going to take a drink for a confirmed prediction on that one. So thank you very much, Zerolon. I have some of the best audience members.
You really do.
Yeah.
If the speed of light has not been a constant through time. Matter of fact, Barry Setterfield has an article here in Atomic Constants, Light and Time magazine. During the last
Atomic Constants, Light and Time magazine? That is a wild title for a magazine, but okay, cool. Imagine being on the committee that decided that was going to be the name of your next publication. The Atomic Constants, Light and Time. Like, come on. Hire a marketing executive.
last 300 years, he said, at least 164 separate measurements of the speed of light have been published. 16 different measurement techniques were used. The different ways to measure the speed of light.
Yeah. So I'm familiar with this story also, mostly because of my familiar with historical young Earth creationist arguments. Virtually every young Earth creationist group, and even individual creationist, has abandoned this argument. I'm going to read a super chat from Rando from chat. And Bent, I want you to think about what could have been going on here that someone reported decreasing values in the measurement for the speed of light. While I read this, just think about it. Let me know what you come up with.
Okay.
Rando from chat for 100 Argentinian pesos says, "Isn't orthography just the grammar of letters?" No, get out of here. Maybe in the same way, our interactions are the grammar of evolution, except podcasting. That's like syntax. Ugh, God, that's so cursed. I hate everything about that. I don't even know what any of that is supposed to mean. All right, Bent, can you think of a reason why the value of the speed of light might have been measured and reported with decreasing values over some period of time?
I cannot, but I can guess.
Okay.
They're just full of nonsense.
Not quite.
They're not doing their job correctly.
Well, I would argue that Barry Setterfield wasn't doing his job correctly.
Was he lying?
No, he was just mistaken.
Okay,
You ever heard of margins of error?
I have.
Okay, so if I tell you, hey, my desk is 3.5 feet tall. If I say that, right, you think it's going to be 3 feet 6 inches, right?
Yeah, about that.
But what if I'm rounding to the nearest half foot and it's actually 3 feet 7 inches? Am I lying to you?
Not really.
Right. But what if
Would
the
say
next
no.
time someone comes up and they're like, oh, Dapper's desk is actually 3 feet and 5 inches tall? Is that still probably within the margin of error that you would expect?
I would think so. That sounds reasonable.
What if the next day someone comes up and says, it's actually 3 feet and 4.75 inches?
I'd be down with that.
But do you notice I just gave you 3 decreasing values for the height of my desk?
You did.
Is my desk shrinking?
No.
Nope, probably not. That's what happens.
Yeah, I didn't think of that because it says in the quote, experimental error cannot explain it, but
Except it can. Yeah, that's the problem. It can.
it's a lie.
Yeah. Now, some people might have been mistaken about the actual value for their error margin on their measurements. That's a thing that could have happened, right? But, like, fundamentally, that's what happened. And since this, more and more measurements of the speed of light, up until we redefined the meter in terms of the speed of light and just set the speed of light at a fixed value, did not show this progression. This was just an artifact of data. That's all that happened. Yep.
One way, if you know the distance to the moon, and the moon is moving across the sky in front of a star, you focus on that star carefully, and as soon as the moon goes past, how long does it take the light to get to you?
What?
How long does it take the light from what? Take it to you.
From the occlusion? I mean, the light that the moon interrupts will be the light that's at the same distance from the moon as the same distance from the Earth as the moon is. That's that part of the beam that it will shut off. And then that event with the limited light from the star and the light from the moon at that instant will both be traveling to you simultaneously through space. So there won't be a time delay. How do you... How do you? I'm taking a drink. This is dumb. Do you think there's a time delay between the visual appearance of the occlusion and when the light stops getting to you? Because those are the same thing. That's the visual appearance. That's what you're measuring. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $5 says there's no margin of error on Ken's intelligence tests. They all come back identical. He tested negative. Yeah, Kent would definitely fail an IQ test. Oh, goodness. This is so dumb.
Now you have a 243 million mile distance, and get a quick stopwatch and calculate the speed of light. There's 16 different ways that it's been measured.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not one of them. Because that doesn't make a damn lick of sense, Kent. The way the speed of light is usually measured is light travel time between one point of destination and its reflection back, right? And then you take that distance, you take the time, you cut the time in half, and that's your speed of light using the distance, using the speed triangle, right? Where you have distance, time, and speed. If you know any two sides of that triangle, you know the third one. Yeah. So, for instance, one person I know personally who has in fact measured the speed of light, or well, technically measured the distance to the moon, using light to and from the moon, is Maddie, who has in fact used lasers to shoot laser beams off of the retroreflectors left by Apollo astronauts on the moon. She's done that. She's sat there with precise timing equipment and a laser beam and waited to see when the laser beam came back, and then used that to verify the distance to the moon, because again, we can no longer measure the speed of light because we just decided to define distance in terms of the speed of light. But in previous decades, that would have been a measurement of the speed of light, presuming that you had a good idea of the distance to the moon. But other options have been used as well, as including things like in the Michelson-Morley experiment, where they used mirrors and an interferometer to check the difference between the time that it takes for light to go across different paths of different size, and then using the interference pattern produced to calculate the speed at which the light had to travel. And since you know the distance along the paths, it's pretty easy to calculate. So, like, that's another way. But, like, yeah, I'm not aware of anyone using occlusions of stars by the moon as a way to measure the speed of light, because it fundamentally seems pretty impossible to do.
The way we did it in physics class when I was in school.
I do not believe that Kent did an experiment to measure the speed of light in a physics class in any school he went to. That seems wildly unlikely.
Oh, that sounds wrong.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing that ever happened. But I'll let him tell the story and then I'll decide. Rando from chat for 100 Argentinian pesos says, wait, isn't Maddie Christian? How did she get access to the space laser? No, this was an Earth laser that she had access to. The Christians have Earth lasers. The Jews have space lasers. Come on, get it right. Everyone knows this. That's just how it works. I love that the woman who proposed that has been so heavily burned by Trump that she's become one of his bigger critics from the right. Because that was Marjorie Taylor Greene, and now she can't stand the man because he decided not to support her bid for getting into the Senate. And that was it. That's all it took. Now she hates him. And like, it's a little weird because every once in a while she goes on some rant and I'm like, hell yeah, Marjorie. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. This is the Jewish space lasers woman. I don't want to agree with her. What is happening?
You get mirrors, a bunch of mirrors arranged in a circle like those disco balls, whatever they call them, okay?
I'm pretty sure you would actually want the mirrors to face inward for this, which would make it like a reverse disco ball, but whatever, Kent, go on.
You shine a laser all the way down the hall, bounce it off a mirror, bounce it back to another mirror, this disco ball, and bounce it back down the hall to a white piece of paper. And the length the light travels in is 3 trips down the hallway.
Okay.
Get your disco ball spinning on a record player. 33 RPM or 78 RPM or something. The light's going to bounce off that mirror, and once you get to a certain speed, you're going to see the light on the final leg on the piece of paper start to move. And now you can calculate how far did the light travel from the time it left the laser, bounced off the mirror, came back, bounced off this mirror, the mirror moved a little bit.
I'm trying to think, would that actually work? Because if you're using a continuous laser beam, what you would actually just see is the laser light smear out. If it's a smooth mirror, I guess. Or no, because it would be faceted. So shouldn't it jiggle back and forth?
I don't know.
And then wouldn't there be multiple resonant frequencies which would give you the same result? I don't think this works. At least not with the kind of equipment that you could get in high school. I'm not sure. Like, I feel like there's something there, like within a tight set of constraints, you might be able to use this. But like, I can't imagine you could do it in like a high school or even an undergrad program. Like, this seems like it would require like really, really high tech stuff, not like a record player and a disco ball. I'm not sure though. I don't know. It seems like one of those things where it's like, maybe you could make it work under tightly enough controlled conditions, but yeah. Maybe. It's a maybe from me. I don't know. I'm not a physicist. Is Tapioca Weasel here? Vandy, get in here. Help us out. Someone send up the weasel signal.
Enough that even at the speed of light, you're able now to tell. If the little calculations, you can look up in a physics book how that's done,
but Kent, math isn't reality. The Flurf taught me that.
It's not that complicated to measure the speed of light. Several of the methods are very, very simple. Setterfield says.
I mean, I'll agree. Some of the methods are kind of simple. I'll take a drink for that. That's fair enough. They require a lot of precision, but that doesn't make them complicated.
It's been measured for 164 separate times over 300 years. He said the speed of light has decreased so rapidly that experimental error cannot explain it.
Yeah, Setterfield was wrong. There's a reason why no one took this seriously, even in 2000. And there's also a reason why the only source that Kent is wildering with is from 87. A source which was already like 20 years old when he gave this talk. Because I'm assuming about 2007 is basically when he did this, because we know it was slightly before he went to prison. So, like, no, Kent. In fact, other creationists had already abandoned this by 2000. This was on a list of, like, arguments we don't think that creationists should use by the time Kent gave this talk. Because it turns out Setterfield was wrong. It was, in fact, experimental error that answered this question.
Here's the chart that Barry Setterfield got. Measurements back from 1860, clear up until the present. Now there's a margin of error. You see the lines on there? Different people measured the speed of light.
I don't see the lines. Your editor didn't fix this, Kent. I don't know who your editor was, but he kind of sucks. I was going to say you should get a different editor, but I'm pretty sure that by now he does have a different editor. I don't think he has the same editor from his pre-prison days.
And they would say the speed of light is X amount plus or minus so much. What he has graphed here is his the average of the light speeds that have been measured over the last 300 years, or since 1860, over the last 140 years.
I love the idea that, according to this graph, because we did eventually see it, right, that the speed of light started an exponential decay right around the time we started measuring it. And then right around the time that our margin of error started to reduce significantly, it just kind of stopped decaying. That's super convenient, isn't it?
What a coincidence.
Weird. We were measuring light just in time to catch it decaying. Wow. Fun times. What a wonderful world to live in, where we just happen to start measuring the speed of light right as it starts changing. Yep. That's definitely what happened. I'm just taking a drink for how dumb it is. Jeez. Like, how does that not occur to anyone? Obviously, it occurred to many people. How does that not occur to Kent? This seems awfully convenient. Come on.
He said the speed of light decreased until about 1960.
Oh. What happened in 1960?
And the speed of light today, if you measure it, you always get the same.
Wow. So we only had about like 50-ish years or so when it was decreasing, maybe 60, and then it just kind of conveniently stopped, and it started right as we started measuring it, Kent. Kent, think about that. Think about that. How does that not seem suspicious to you? Do you think that the speed of light was always decaying, and then boom, right as we started measuring it, a few decades later, it just kind of stopped? Why? Why would that be, Kent? I don't. I'm out of words for describing why that's a dumb thing to think.
It's so dumb.
The only reasonable conclusion is that you're wrong about the errors of margin, or the margins of error. Sorry, I can't even talk anymore. That's the only reasonable conclusion, Kent. Why would a fundamental constant of the universe end decaying only a few decades after we started measuring it? It was decaying for 6,000 years, according to you, apparently. And then it just kind of stopped right as we started checking in on it. Was it shy? Was it embarrassed about shrinking? Is that what happened? Did light have performance anxiety?
186,000 miles per second. So why did it level out in 1960?
Because we got better instruments, Kent. That's why. Because we got better instruments. I'm taking a drink. Oh my god. As Orange Dot points out, this is why Kent will always be the baseline standard for the metric stupidity unit. It's true. It's the Hovind. Oh my god.
Well, probably because that's when they invented the atomic clock.
Oh boy. Okay. I can't imagine this is going to be anything but something that's very dumb, but here we go.
And I'll explain why.
Okay. Cool.
Everybody else is getting a greater number for the speed of light. Not much greater, a little bit, okay? Mm-hmm. You won't notice a difference when you shut the lights off to get to bed, okay? It's still real quick.
Okay, cool.
But if the speed of light is decreasing until 1960, what made it level out? Let's assume that it has decreased. This article says, no physical law prevents anything from exceeding the speed of light.
I mean, except for relativity, except for that one. That's a physical law, set of physical laws, actually. But that does it. So I'm gonna take a drink. Also, I love that our citations here are Wireless World, Radio Electronics, New Scientist, and Newsweek. Bent, would you care to guess how many of those publications are peer-reviewed?
0?
Wow, you're a good guesser.
What do you know about that?
In 2 published experiments, the speed of light was apparently exceeded by as much as a factor of 100.
Yeah, we did go over that. Templar Warden says, who's been a member for 5 months, is at the tetrapod level, says, why? Because Kent is stupid. That's why. And then adds in a disgustingly unnecessary pelagic tunicate. Gross. This
is clear back in 1988. They were getting measurements 100 times faster than the speed of light.
I also want to point out that this rate of decline in the decay, according to Kent's graph, was like an exponential decay curve, which means that you can't explain it by pointing to something that happened in 1960. Because that thing has to have been going on for that whole time in an exponential decay way. Which you could argue could be explained by increasing sophistication in measurement apparatuses, but that converge to a certain level of like near maximum amount of precision, past which it's hard to go because of like the limitations of physics and material science and whatnot. That is an explanation that could actually explain this decay curve. But the invention of clocks in one particular year sure as heck does not do that, because what was explaining decline slowing down before that? Can't be the clocks that didn't exist yet, Kent.
So you can't say the speed of light has always been a constant. The atomic clock...
Yes, we can.
...measures time based on the wavelength of a cesium atom. Let's see, the paragraph where it starts off, as a result, they defined the second of atomic time as the length of time required for 9,192,631 192,631,770 cycles of a cesium atom at 0 magnetic field. You're measuring the wavelength of a cesium atom and determining, okay,
Bent, is a cesium atom a photon?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't think so either. Mostly because I think it's made of fermions, isn't it?
I believe so.
Okay, and a
Protons,
photon.
neutrons, electrons.
Yeah. And muons. Don't forget the muons. And the neutrinos.
Is it made of muons?
No, I'm just saying those are also fermions.
Yeah, but that's not what it's made of.
No. But it's not made of like photons or anything. No. Okay. So the wavelength at which a cesium atom would have, or its frequency, that wouldn't necessarily be based on the speed of light now, would it? I mean, it
I
could
don't
be
think
maybe,
so.
but it doesn't have to be. We haven't made that. We haven't established that. Rando from chat for
Not that I
100
know.
Argentinian peso says there is no law of physics that says a dog can't play basketball. Can't probably. Nice. I like it.
this is 1 second. Well, duh, if you're measuring time, if you're measuring light with light,
Mm-hmm. Which I'm not sure is
you're not
what's
going to
happening
notice any
here.
decrease
Okay.
because your clock is decreasing at the same rate.
Yeah, Kent. That would explain a sudden and abrupt halt, but that's not what's on the graph that you showed. So again, even if we assume that all the physics here would work out, which I am not convinced of, but then again, I'm no physicist, it wouldn't matter. Because this was an exponential decay that stopped, not a sudden abrupt change in the rate of decay. So what was causing the decay to slow down in 1955? It can't
It
have
was
been
a
the clocks.
miracle.
Yeah, it was a miracle, apparently.
Right? So you have a rubber ruler.
Yeah, that would explain things after the rubber ruler that you invented. Maybe it's stupid to have the rubber ruler, but it doesn't explain things from before that, Kent. Back when you were still using steel rulers. You have to explain that part.
And if our clock is decreasing, does that mean time itself to us is decreasing? Or just, is it so insignificant we're not going to notice it in our lifetime?
We won't notice it in our lifetime or in a bunch of people's lifetimes.
But it would result in things like an anomalous increase in the length of the day beyond what we can expect from things like the the exchange of angular momentum within the Earth-Moon system, where Earth gives some of its angular momentum to the Moon, which then uses that to increase its orbital distance. We would expect that the length of the day would increase beyond that if the length of the second is increasing. And since we can already detect milliseconds difference in the length of the year and like millisecond differences in the length of the day, we would be able to detect this within a human lifetime. If the decay rate were still going down at some kind of linear speed and then stopped, which is the story he's trying to tell us in words, but is also not the story he told us in the graph. Do you think Kent just doesn't have the ability to convert graphs into like linguistics information or just like actual intuitive information that he can understand?
He
Like,
doesn't at
no?
all.
Okay.
He can't do that.
Yeah, that does seem like the case. And look, I get it. Getting from graphs to reality can be a tricky thing, right? A lot of people in like 4th and 5th grade struggle with this idea, you know, even maybe into 6th or 7th grade. Although it does make me worry because Kent claims to have been a math teacher. And if you're a math teacher and you can't figure out how to translate between real life and a graph, that concerns me. My Unfinished Sock, who's been a member for 9 months and is a member of the Amniote level, says, "Don't be a dumb grifter, like and share the stream instead," with a winky tongue out emoji. Thank you very much. Oh, and then David Street for $5 says, "These live streams with Kent are always so funny and interesting. Keep up the good work." Well, thank you. I plan to. I'm going to keep doing this until I can't. Which basically means, yeah, super chats like that are how I make sure that I still can. So there you go. All right.
The article that Walt Brown has in his book is really good about atomic clocks. He said atomic clocks are very precise, but that does not mean they're accurate.
Oh, is he going to start telling us the difference between a precision and accuracy?
I actually don't think he's going to do that.
All right.
He goes to great detail the difference between precision and accuracy. Read that when you get time.
You're right. He didn't. He just glossed over it. I'll take a
Drink for
drink for
prediction.
prediction. Of course, when we make opposite predictions, we kind of guarantee their prediction drink, but that's okay.
It's all right.
Okay, here's the real question. Do you think Kent could describe the difference between accuracy and precision?
No, I don't. I wouldn't be shocked if I were wrong, but I really don't think he can.
Okay, I'm going to do it because I do think it's a good thing for people to know, and not everyone does know the difference, right? Okay, so everyone's familiar with archery. I think everyone's heard of archery, right? Where you have a little target, and the target has different circles, and in the middle there's a bullseye, and the goal is to hit the very dead center of the target. That's worth the most points, right? Okay. Well, let's say that your target was actually going to be placed on not just a single little like round thing of hay, right, but a big block of hay that's going to take up like an entire wall's worth of space. And then over that, we're going to place a white piece of paper. Now you're told where the target is in terms of like distance from one side to the other, so you know exactly where the target is in terms of numbers. But that's not the same thing as translating that into where your arrow goes, right? So you pick, based on your visual acuity, a spot that you think meets that description. You start firing arrows. How close your arrows are, like we'll say you get a scatter of arrows, right? And they roughly form a circular pattern. How close they are to the actual target, the center of that circle, that's basically your accuracy. How tight the circle is, how small the circle is, how close all the arrows got to each other, that's your precision. And they're not the same thing. So you could have a very, very tight circle of arrows, which means you always were firing those arrows at the exact same spot, the spot you thought was where the target was. But someone else might have a larger circle, but be closer to the target anyway, because you were wrong about where the spot was. And so they were more accurate, but you were more precise. And that's the difference between precision and accuracy. And they're both important for different reasons. Jessica, Transmetal Alchemist for $5 redo says, read this super chat when you've got time. Well, I have time now. My Unfinished Journey for $2 says, hail Daps and Kent and down with dumb grifters with a fist emoji. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for $5 says, Kent is very precise. He lands on the same bullshit every time. That's true. You know, speaking of fist emojis, it was recently brought to my attention that Pringles are basically a fisting simulator. The can is, at least. And I'll let everyone think about that on their own time. So, yeah.
Dr. Troitsky
Sure it's not Trotsky?
said the speed of light was 10 billion times faster at time zero.
Cool. He's wrong, but okay.
What does he mean by that?
I don't know.
Well, according to the Big Bang Theory, the Big Bang took place, everything took off faster than the speed of light.
Well, space expanded faster than the speed of light, perhaps. It is currently doing that, actually. But that doesn't mean that things moving through that space were moving through the space at a straight rate faster than the speed of light, because that's not possible.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be here yet.
What?
I think that's a joke that didn't land.
All right, I guess we'll take a drink for it, because that doesn't make any sense, but okay.
So things were going faster than the speed of light initially. They have to believe that in order to get the universe to put together. See, and Hugh Ross has swallowed all of this and doesn't see the problem.
Yeah, the guy who's a professional astronomer who knows more about astronomy than Kent can even imagine. He's the dumb one about astronomy. Oh, my goodness. I'm just going to take a drink. Look, I have a lot of disagreements with Hugh Ross, but Hugh Ross knows what the heck is going on when it comes to starlight. Jessica, the Transmetal Alchemist, for $5 redo says, according to the Big Bang Theory, the Big Bang happened. It's true. That does actually is basically what he just said. That's what it comes down to. Oh, Kent. Goodness. I don't think we're giving out that Vermintide. I was actually just looking earlier today, and I had, what was it, like 190 hours in Vermintide? Is that what I said?
No, I don't remember the number. It was a lot.
All right, I'm going to check. 129 hours is how much time I have in Vermintide. Yeah, so I do like that game. Haven't played in a while, though.
Everything is based on the assumption that the speed of light has always been the same. Dr. Joao Magueggio, whoever he is, said, a shocking possibility is that the speed of light might change in time during the life of the universe.
Yeah. That would be a shocking possibility. We've ruled it out since then. We've known this is not the case since before Kent gave this talk. And again, this is something that every creationist organization has abandoned, and I have not heard a creationist besides Kent give this talking point in decades. In fact, to be fair, I don't actually know if Kent still gives this talking point, because Kent's modern stuff is super boring, as we've gone over, so I don't watch it.
So I don't think we could prove the speed of light has always been the same.
We can, though, because it would affect other things, and we can tell by looking through telescopes that those things haven't been affected. Because remember, the speed of light isn't just the speed at which photons travel. It is a fundamental constant that is involved in all sorts of natural laws which we could tell if they had changed, because things would be different in distant parts of the universe. Physics would be evidently different there. But it's not. Because no matter what the speed of light was, one, it would change physics, and two, it would still mean that looking at distant parts of the galaxy, it's looking at different times. Just not as different as we think. Lieutenant Math Navigator for $5 says, are you seriously citing an expert without knowing who the F he is? Seems that way. Yes. Or at least without being able to pronounce it, which isn't quite the same thing. There are definitely people who I've gotten wrong in terms of how their names are pronounced, despite citing them properly. Because sometimes, you don't know how to read a different language. It's like when people super chat in like Swedish or something. I don't know how to read Swedish.
We certainly cannot measure the great distances to the stars. They probably are.
We can, though. We've already gone over this last time. We can use parallax, and then from there we can use standard candles, and then from there we can use redshift. You actually said at the beginning of this that you were going to go over those things. We only have 9.5 minutes left in this particular talk, and I don't think he's going to do that. I think that was just a lie. So, yeah, you promised me Cepheid variables, Kent. Where are my Cepheid variables? Although you called them Cepheid variables. Because, again, you don't really know how to say words. But
Billions of light years away, but we don't know that. We can't measure it, okay? And thirdly, the creation was finished. It was mature. When God made it.
Hey, Olivia Williams Purple Fairy has joined the channel at the amniote level. Everybody, send some amniote emojis to welcome Olivia Williams Purple Fairy to the memberships. Thank you very much. By the way, you can send sessile tunicates, but please do not send those disgusting pelagic tunicates in the chat. That might scare Olivia Williams Purple Fairy away if you send too many of those. So please don't do it. Don't look at me like that.
When he was done.
I was looking at chat.
Oh,
They know
okay.
what to do.
All right. Yeah, only sessile tunicates and amniote emojis. If we send too many pelagic tunicate emojis, YouTube might ban us all.
They could already see the stars. Even if they're billions of light years away, they could already see them.
Guys, this is specifically the opposite of what I asked you to do.
Good job, chat. Good work.
I often ask people, how old was Adam when God made him? He was 0.
Oh.
Did he look 0?
I don't know. He probably didn't look old because he probably didn't have things like scars or arthritis or maybe even a belly button, Kent. Because why would he have those things? Those things would be dishonest indicators of age that go beyond the bare minimum requirements for creating a magical human out of nothing or out of dirt or whatever, right? Like I was recently going back over my talk with Peter Markley, who is a now former young Earth creationist that I had on FTFE's channel. And one of the things I pointed out is that it's true that there might be some amount of things that would normally indicate age that are like just necessary to the fact of creating a universe that is ready to be inhabited by humans. And that's fair, right? Like, does God needs to make trees that are full grown and like have fruit and whatnot so that Adam can eat the fruit? Sure, okay. But he could do that without making a fake history of that tree in the tree rings, right? He could just make a tree that has a solid, no rings core of dead wood tissue, and then the living tissue surrounding that, and then the bark, and then having leaves, right? Like, that's a thing God could do, presumably. So if he put the rings in there, that would be dishonest. That would be indicating a history that didn't exist, that doesn't need to be there in order for the tree to function. Similarly, if Adam had growth rings in his bones, or if he had scars, or things like that, that would be a dishonest indication of age. And having starlight that's already flying towards us from stars that in some cases we would observe go nova later on, meaning that they never existed in the first place. They're fake stars. That's dishonest because God didn't have to do that. Now, if he sent us just a bunch of points of lights in an unchanging way, and they don't do dynamic things like blow up or new ones form or move around, then I'd say, yeah, okay, sure, maybe. And that would also mean that astronomy would be vastly different because the stars wouldn't be what we observe them to be. But that's not what happened. Why did God make fake supernova explosions in the starlight that he's sending us from supernova explosions that never happened? I can't think of a reason that doesn't come down to dishonesty. And look, if you want to say God's dishonest, I can't stop you, right? Like, you have that option available to you. But what I am going to say is, if you think God can lie to you in that devious a manner, what reason do you have for ever believing anything at all? Because everything you could see could just be God lying to you. Everything. Even the Bible, Kent. Maybe God just made the world in like the 5th century, and the Bible was already just a thing that he created out of nothing. And none of those events happened. There was no Jesus. I mean, I would say Richard Carrier is right, but that actually wouldn't be Richard Carrier being right. But like, how do you know? How do you know that's not the case if God could create fake explosions in the sky from stars that never existed?
No. He looked 48, prime of life.
Is 48 the prime of life?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I feel like it might be somewhat earlier than that. By 48, you're complaining about your back. Oh, was Kent 48 when he gave this talk? Is that what just happened?
Oh, that may be it.
All right. Only Eric laughed, and Eric is, like afraid of Kent because of all the abuse. So I'm going to count that as a joke that didn't land. So we'll take a drink.
And so, if you walked into the Garden of Eden, the day after God made it, you'd see all these beautiful trees, all the fruit on them. Wow, how old are these trees? 0.
And if you cut one down, would the tree rings confirm or deny that fact, Kent? Because I would say that the only way for God to do this in a way that isn't dishonest is for the tree rings to confirm that, for there to only be one solid mass of wood inside. Rando from chat for 100 Argentinian pesos says, if God didn't create stars where they are with light that had already reached Earth, how would Adam know he's a Scorpio? That's a good point. He wouldn't know. I guess checkmate atheists, even though this isn't an atheist channel.
Did they have rings? Yes. I don't know. Rings add strength to the tree called the laminate effect. You have hard ring, soft ring, hard ring, soft ring. Otherwise the tree, all hard rings, it's real brittle, it breaks. All soft rings, it, like Jell-O, can't stand up. So the combination of the two gives you both strength and flexibility.
Okay, so what if instead, in order to avoid lying, God just made those radial instead of rings? Or what if he made all of the wood of an intermediate flexibility? I mean, according to Kent, the world was perfect and it didn't have things like floods and storms and stuff. So what does the tree care? It could actually just be weak, because the only reason the trees have to be strong is to avoid things like falling over in storms and floods and landslides, things Kent doesn't think happened. So what's it matter?
Which is why God sometimes puts us through hard times and good times and hard times and good times, and that adds those layers to your life, and you get both strength and flexibility.
Well, now we know that the theodicy that Kent prefers is the character building theodicy, which I'm not going to comment on much because I don't care about theodicies and their relative strengths and weaknesses, at least not for the purposes of this channel. But it's interesting that that's the one he goes with. Bent, do you have a preferred theodicy?
I don't think so.
Okay. Lieutenant Math the Navigator for $2 says, Kent's head is past a soft ring.
So, God did not make two babies and put them in the Garden of Eden and hand them a package of seeds and say, here, plant these quick, you're going to need supper. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
The egg.
The chicken. Which came first, the tree or the plant? Or the tree or the seed? The tree.
It was the seed, and that was...
Okay.
Whatever.
God made a mature creation. So, things to consider. Last two. The creation was finished when God made it. That would include starlight being already showing on the earth. And a light year is a distance, it is not a time. Many people have a hard time grasping that concept.
Let's see. Joshua Geese for $5 says, Kent is forgetting about Good Times, Bad Times by Led Zeppelin. I'm not sure he would even know that Led Zeppelin is a thing. I'm not sure, though. Yeah. Also, we still haven't got Setterfield variables.
Since the speed of light is not proven to be consistent, why would star
It actually is demonstrated as conclusively as can be, but okay.
distance have anything to do with the age of the universe?
Well, because even if that were the case, that the speed of light had changed, if you could measure that decay, which Kent thinks you can, then what that means is that you could still calculate the distance to these objects, and they would still be way too far away. Maybe not 13.8 billion years away, but they would at least be a few million years away. In many cases. Sorry, light years away. Which would mean that the Earth is still too old. Kent is trying to put a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound. Like, it's just not going to work.
Just because a star is 10 billion light years away, so does that prove the universe is 10 billion years old?
Yes. As much as science ever proves anything. Yes, it does.
No. Probably is 10 billion light years away.
Then it took approximately 10 billion years for that light to get to Earth. Maybe longer, if it had to pass through things.
Okay. Another way they measure star distance is by using what's called the red shift, or
Ooh, we are
measuring with a Cepheid variable.
All right.
And we'll get into all that here.
Here's what we're going to do. We're basically up at the end of this. So we're going to get the discussion on redshift and Cepheid variables next time. And I'm actually kind of surprised he's going to try to squeeze this into the last 7 minutes of this 57-minute talk. Actually, I think it's closer to 58. Whatever. All right. Bent, do you have anything coming up that you want people to know about?
I do not.
Why not?
Because there's just nothing.
All right, that's fair. All right, what is coming up here on this channel? So, on Thursday, we have a new video dropping for public access. It's Creationist Jay Seegert, Liar or Idiot. I believe this is actually the first time I've ever covered Jay Seegert, is this video. So, if you're interested in what he has to say, come check that out. Then, Lieutenant Math the Navigator for $5 says, that is incorrect. He's using a pamphlet for his That is incorrect. Oh, he's using a pamphlet for his compound to stop a major injury. Got it. Sorry, I had to figure out the context there to figure out what was going on. Thank you. Let's see. So that's on Thursday. That'll be at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Then on Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm forgetting which time frame we're in, whether there's daylight saving time or not. We will be doing over on Top Hats Off session 0 for Chesh's upcoming little mini campaign for D&D that will be going on Top Hats Off. So now I'm not positive that that's the exact time we're doing it because we have to coordinate with Chesh, and maybe she has a different idea, but I believe that is the plan. Then on Saturday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, we are doing the next episode of Dapper Reacts. I believe we are still on the 1611 video 1. Let me double check. Yes, we've only gotten a half an hour into this like hour and a half long nonsense nightmare of trying to demonstrate that the 1611 King James is the actual original Bible that God wrote in heaven. Jessica Transmetal Alchemist for $5 redo says, my manager is going on holidays, so for the next 6 weeks, I'll be running the department. The era of Jessica Dairy Queen has begun. I don't know if that's exciting or horrifying. We'll find out. We'll find out if there's like an E. coli outbreak or something at that location. Not that I think there will be. I'm sure that Jessica Transmetal Alchemist is a reliable department manager. In fact, what you should really do is just boost sales through the roof and then go to the owner and say, hey, you should give me a raise and give me this person's job since I did such a better job at it. What do you need that person for? You don't. You need me. Don't tell your boss I said that. All right. So then next Tuesday, we're back for Kent with Bent. We got another one. We're going to continue on with this next week. So yeah. So I guess I will end this by saying, first of all, thank you so much to everyone who super chatted, everyone who gifted memberships, anyone who's joining the Patreon or the memberships. It really, really means a lot. It is, in fact, how the channel keeps operating. Without you, the channel would, at the very least, shrink down to only a ghost of what it is right now. And it's because of you that, other than some weird interruptions because of YouTube giving me false community guideline strikes, this channel has been doing 3 videos a week, 2 live streams and 1 scripted video or more for, was it like 5 years now?
It's been a while.
Yeah. It's been before I moved to Tucson. So it's actually closer to 6 years. It's been going on for close to 6 years now. Although no, because Dapper React started later, so maybe it's like 4 years. Either way, it's been a very long time, especially for a YouTube channel. And that is only possible because you guys have made it possible for this channel to pay the bills. Once that stops, I'll have to do something else, and the channel will shrink. So I'm hoping it never does stop. And of course, also, we've had numerous upgrades for the channel in terms of the visual fidelity, the audio, all this stuff. All of this has been because of supporters. So I want to say thank you so much. You guys do not know how much it means to me. Or no, I don't know if I don't think you can. It really means everything. That being said, once again, I do want you, if you have not already, go over to Craig's channel, find one of your favorite videos of his, and tell him what an awesome job he's doing and how much you value what he's been doing, because he's been having a rough time and he could use some extra good wishes. Also, for $100 redues, Primordial Puggles just sends a blank super chat. Thank you so much. That is extremely generous. And that might actually be enough for us to drop the, I don't think it is, but it's almost close. Yeah, it's closer. I was going to say that might be enough. You know what? No. We're dropping the Warhammer Vermintide Steam Key anyway, just to say thank you for such a generous thing, because you know what? I appreciate it. So here you go. You just have to be fast. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to drop this, and then I want you, whoever gets it or even tries to get it, at me and let me know whether you got it or not. So here we go. I'm pasting it right now. It should be showing up in just a few seconds for you because there's a time delay. Thank you so much again, Primordial Puggles. That really does mean so much to me. So there it is. There is the Steam Key. It's the big alphanumeric nonsense thing. Do at me. So I suppose now that we have given the last bits of this, why is my heart thingy not working? I'm trying to heart the super chat. It won't let me. Oh, there it is. It worked. Thank you. Oh, now it unhearted. I'm being dumb. Why is it doing this? Let's see. Yes, I want everyone to please have a safe rest of your day. We're going to be watching Star Trek over on the Discord server. Joshua Geese for $5 says, Dapper Dinosaur, the hardest working dinosaur on the internet. I do think that's probably true. I can't think of a dinosaur that works harder than me. But then again, I guess I don't know all of them. So thank you so much, everyone. The last thing I have to say is ICE must be abolished.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Sealoof, Bent Hovind, Tapioca Weasel, Michał Dominiak, Sphincter of Doom, Regios, Landon Knoll, Ian Chen, Eleron Teller, Phil Rivara, Kelvin Brostock Van Manen, David Hercules, Joshua Geese, Dan Sheedy, Pegajace, The Plastic Mouse, Arrow Dodger, Gordon Loves Science, Amber Athelian, Prixie Purple,
Agricola Sequa, Me, Myself, and I, Fits of Rage 23, Edwin M., Ken Swanson, and John Ackerman.
It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 15% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.